And so wherever MAGA is, we will fight it.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. Today's conversation with Steve Schmidt is one for the books. Before we get into it, you gotta watch this hit put out by Steve and the Save America movement. We'll talk about it in a second.
The list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Pam Bondi also told us there were thousands of videos. Now pedophile protector Pam is lying, covering up crimes of the child rapist. Lies don't just deceive others. They rot the foundation of the self. The more a person lies, the less they can trust their own reflection. Bondi's Epstein lies are ugly.
Don't you ever challenge my integrity.
We do, Pam, 1,000 times over. Paid for by Save America Movement.
The Save America movement is not like other political messaging organizations. I've been so impressed that I actually joined them as a volunteer advisor on veterans and national security issues. What sets them apart, and honestly what everyone needs to start emulating about them, is that they are constantly on offense. We all should be. As people who love democracy, who love this country, we should be on offense. We have the facts on our side. We have the moral high ground. We fight against MAGA knowing that we are on the right side of history. Steve Schmidt gets it, and he brings that patriotic zeal to everything he does. For those who don't know his background, Steve was once one of the most influential strategists in the Republican Party. He has long since defected to our side. He's one of the good guys, and he is now one of the most powerful anti-Trump voices out there. The Save America movement just released a blitz of ads targeting key figures in the Trump regime. Pam Bondi is at the top of that list. But as Steve says, wherever MAGA is, we will fight it. Here's our conversation. Well, how many ads do we have out now? We have deluged the airwaves with these hits on Bondi and the Epstein files, on the threats against Denmark and Greenland. You guys are on a roll.
So we put out a whole series of ads, and they really fall into three categories. The first category we have are ads targeting some of our terrible ambassadors. We have national embarrassments all over the world as American ambassadors, and most people don't know their name, but they disrespect our allies and they dishonor all of us. So we have engaged and gone after the ambassador to Poland, the U.S. ambassador Tech Bro to Denmark, and of course the drunken lout who is the U.S. ambassador to Canada, the racist Pete Hoekstra.
MAGA is a cancer and it is threatening Canada. Darkness is falling and evil is rising. It must be confronted. It must be defeated. Americans and Canadians saved the world together 80 years ago. We've always stood arm in arm defending freedom wherever it is threatened. Today, freedom is threatened by Donald Trump and his repugnant ambassador, Pete Hoekstra. Hoekstra's threats against Canada disgrace every American. His expletive-filled tantrums appall us. His disrespect for your great country shames and embarrasses us. Every decent American knows Canada is our friend, our partner, our ally. Pete Hoekstra is a textbook definition of a MAGA superstar: shallow, dumb, ignorant, incompetent, and racist. The American people stand with the people of Canada. We will defend your sovereignty as fiercely as we defend our own.
We're going to keep going after the ambassadors. These ads will never stop. They will be running and targeted digitally in all of those capitals around the country. They'll follow them wherever they go for as long as they're the ambassadors who are disrespecting Poland, Denmark, and Canada and embarrassing all of us. And the people in those countries, our friends, should understand that there are scores of tens of millions of Americans who dissent against all of this insanity. We are beginning our corporate campaign where we're going after Tim Cook. It would be very difficult to walk onto that Apple campus without seeing our ads. We're going after Brad Karp, who is the friend of Epstein, who was the first major law firm in the country to capitulate to Trump. He just resigned as chairman, but he's hanging on as lawyer. So Paul Weiss Epstein is a is a great ad. We have responded with a Pam Bondi ad that's appropriate to her disgrace. And we started running ads in Calgary because there's a group of separatists up there who've come to the White House looking for help in starting a army in Calgary and building an army, starting an army. I don't know what the right term is, but also looking for a $500 billion line of credit to break up Canada. And so we have a warning to the Canadian people. Our friend Dean Blundell is the voice on the ad. He was delighted to be able to do that. But everywhere there is a MAGA abuse, we're going to be present, communicating, and we are in an information war. And this stuff is important, pushing back, fighting back, and calling these people out.
Talk to me about the strategy there. And let's start with the international ads, because on one hand, undermining the regime in every way possible, not letting there be any dead air, and just going after every chink in the armor like these horrible ambassadors weakens the regime at home. But I felt this in Greenland, and I felt it in Denmark, and viewers of this show know that we just came back, the SAM delegation, sending that message to our allies that there is a resistance at home makes the resistance global. And there is power in that. There is incredible power in seeing these allied countries who love democracy, who still believe in America at its core. They just are heartbroken at what is going on with this Trump regime. Talk to me about the international power of putting these ads in places where we can internationalize the resistance.
You know, Donald Trump has assaulted ties and connections that are nearly 100 years old, that have existed for 80 years. We have in Denmark, a lot of young Danes gave what Abraham Lincoln called the last full measure of devotion. And they gave it fighting in a war that began after America was attacked. They died for the United States. The only country that has ever been attacked where Article 5 was invoked is us. And nobody ever expected that would happen, but it did happen. And the disrespect is appalling. Our cultures are deeply linked. Our story of who we are has been shaped by the people who came to our country and left everything behind and built lives in America. And so we have, I think, a moral responsibility to communicate all over the world that Trump is not America, that the disaster, the catastrophe that we are experiencing is not just felt in America. It is felt all over the world. And no matter what he does, in the end, our side will prevail in this struggle and this fight. And the work of repairing relationships that have been breached, that have been desecrated, will be much easier if from the beginning our friends and allies know that there are people who are fighting for them by fighting for us. And so in order to save America, we have to speak out in Denmark. I also want to talk about political strategy, and I'll use a military strategy analogy because I'm talking to Ken Harbaugh and so many veterans are listening. During the early years of the Civil War, the strategy was that the Union Army was trying to get to Richmond. And the thought was by a host of failed generals that by getting to Richmond, the war would be over. And of course, getting to Richmond would not have ended the war because the Confederate Army wasn't in Richmond. The Confederate Army, in various instances, was in Maryland and famously in Pennsylvania. If you look at Gettysburg, right, and you go there as a little kid, the question that pops into your head is, well, why here? And the answer to that question was that's where the Confederate Army was. And so wherever MAGA is, we will fight it.
It's Ken Harbaugh with a quick break to tell you about something new coming to the MeidasTouch network. Meidas Defense, serious coverage of the military, national security, and real threats at home and abroad. No spin, no talking points, just expert voices and on-the-ground reporting. Check out Meidas Defense, coming soon to the MeidasTouch network.
And so that's why at the Save America movement, we have experts in science and public health. We're engaged in the fight against Robert Kennedy and his crazies. It's why we have such a dynamic veterans organization that you play such an important part of, because we're going to oppose the great blue falcon at the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, as he goes after some of the finest senators and congressmen we have, like Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, Jason Crow. And all of this over time is going to lead up to national advertising that calls the question that it's the choice at hand is America or Trump. And more we see day by day, people who voted for Trump saying, oh shit, I didn't vote for that. Now, I say you did, but I also have enough restraint to appreciate that yelling at them is destructive to our goals. So if they think they didn't vote for any of this, I agree. Right? Welcome. Right?
Well, the real villains are those who are not only complicit like the Tim Cooks, but who know better. And it is shocking to me that they can't see beyond the next 3 years. And I think Pam Bondi is the exemplar of this. And I'm going to try to read with a straight face what you wrote about her in your latest warning. I tried to recreate something even close to this in ChatGPT. The entire internet can't come close, Steve. And that's what ChatGPT is drawing from. You wrote, Pam Bondi is a bad acid trip come to life, a powerful clown and a dark comedy genius who will be laughed at in every room she ever walks into for the rest of her life. That's the calculation they're not making. That's the realization that hasn't dawned upon them, that they might be in the catbird seat for the next 3 years, but history is already judging them, and the verdict when Donald Trump falls from grace will be damning.
More than damning. Brutal. No one's going to remember George Santos, right? Pam Bondi's going down in history as one of the greatest villains in America's story. Right? But
we're talking
Benedict Arnold. We're talking Joseph McCarthy, Roy Cohn. We're talking about people like Ted Bundy. A force of evil. We have concentration camps being built. We have babies and little children being abused in private prison facilities. We have a lawless Justice Department that's trying to abuse dissent, going after Alyssa Slotkin, Mark Kelly, Jason Crow, trying to indict and prosecute them. She will be disbarred, certainly. We're going to have a Democratic Congress with subpoena power. And what we need to make sure in our groups, and for all the people listening on the MeidasTouch network, and all the people that are part of the Save America movement, part of the work we're doing is to communicate to the Democrats that the blue flag going up doesn't really interest any of us. We want accountability. There has to be massive reform in this country, ethics reform, election reform. We're going to have to break up these tech companies. We're going to have to do the work that FDR did. We're going to have to pass legislation at a scale and a level that hasn't been seen since LBJ was the president. And when we get to that work, part of what we're trying to communicate is we insist that the maximum abuse of power be met with the maximum use of power. And I'll give you a very specific example. There is a Article 1 authority called inherent contempt. Mm-hmm. And inherent contempt means Congress can lock up in the Capitol a recalcitrant witness. Congress has that power. Hasn't been used since 1934. And I want to see it used in 2027, not abusively. But when you see a performance like that, when you see that contempt, that disrespect, we don't live in Trumpistan. I mean, were you watching Pam Bondi as she was delivering that performance? I was. And this is where I fantasize, because I have no interest in running for office, but I do have a fantasy about being in office where I can ask some questions. And what I would have loved to ask her, what I would have said is, "Are you okay? Yeah. Do you know where you are? Were you out late on a bender last night with Judge Jeanine? Did you hit your head? You're in a congressional hearing room of the United States House of Representatives testifying before the Judiciary Committee. What's wrong with you?" The craziest part of it is when she screams, unhinged, "Donald Trump is the greatest president in American history." Yeah, he's better than Washington and Adams. He's better than FDR. He's better than Lincoln. Come on. Right? And so you have an apologist for child rape who, worse than being an apologist, is covering it up. That was part one of my conversation with Steve Schmidt. I had to break this one up because when Steve gets going, I let him run. And part two out tomorrow, Steve unloads on J.D. Vance. You don't want to miss it. And make sure to check out the full rollout of Save America Movement hits. The links are below.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.